Hello, this is David Hall, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar presented by the IoT M2M Council and sponsored by Orbcomm. Since its establishment 2 years ago by 20 high-profile organizations, over 15,000 adopter members have joined the IoT M2M Council, which has focused on making the implementation of IoT and M2M solutions simpler, faster, and more profitable for its member base. Before we start, there are a few items that I would like to bring to the attention of our viewers. Today's presentation will be approximately 40 minutes long, followed by a 20-minute Q&A session with our panelists. This is an interactive webinar, so we are eager to receive your questions at any time. Just type them into the Q&A window on your screen. Our speakers will address as many of the questions as possible during the Q&A segment following the presentations. Please address your questions to all panelists, which is the default setting in the Q&A box. This presentation will be archived and available for viewing later on in the events section of the IoT M2M Council's website. At this point, it is my pleasure to turn the session over to our moderator, Isabel Chapman, Principal Analyst with Makena Research. Isabel has over 15 years of experience in both the telecom and IT sectors, with much time spent at the intersection of the two. Isabel has a background in strategy consulting, product development, and partner alliances at companies such as Microsoft, Dell, Motorola, and Deloitte. As a management consultant, Isabel led teams that helped companies globally with commercialization, business transformation, and strategy. As a product and alliance leader, Isabel launched numerous leading-edge products and services, including introducing the first 3G smartphones into Europe, Middle East, and Asia, and Microsoft's precursor to Link into Canada and Latin America. Isabel?
Thank you, David, for that introduction. It was a great introduction. Thank you. Now I'm just going to turn it over to the next page. Just a little bit about my firm, Makena Research. We're the world's leading provider of market intelligence and strategic insight on the Internet of Things and big data. You can see from the chart that we do offer various research streams, including M2M and IoT regulation, M2M strategies, IoT forecasts, smart cities, smarter cars, and the topic that we're discussing today, which falls into industrial and enterprise IoT. We have a total of 10 senior analysts right now, but we are expanding, and we are based out of our London head office in the UK, but we also have analysts such as myself here in North America. We offer research advisory services with regards to publications, but we also do customer research for our clients. Now, getting back to the supply chain, we here at Makena Research define the supply chain as the tracking and monitoring of trailers and containers by air, sea, rail, and road. It does not include road fleet management, which is a different space. And it also includes elements of supply chain management that we don't necessarily think about often, which is job allocation, routing, freight monitoring, monitoring midstream distribution pipelines as well. So just to see how many of you are listening, who is interested in IoT in the supply chain? We want to know why exactly you're on the call. And basically, you'll see on your screen now that there is a poll, and we will be announcing the results after Ashish's presentation near to the end of the call. But if you could just press your options now on these two questions in terms of what is your role and will you become involved in supply chain activities that include IoT in the next 12 months. So if you could just do that in the next few minutes, that would be great. Now, actually, I put this up here because everyone loves numbers, but in particular, it's as a result of me recently being at a briefing for an operator who had just announced that they were offering a supply chain solution. And a few of the analysts there were a bit confused as to why they were introducing this, because everyone thought, okay, it's just supply chain. It isn't as captivating as smart home or all the talk we're hearing in the press about other applications in IoT, because it has been around for a while. But maybe I'm speaking to the converted here, but I think we should really highlight why the supply chain is significant, and it is actually increasing in importance in IoT. So we have captured in our forecast the fact that global supply chain revenues will increase over 7-fold in the next 10 years. And what that means is it's going to actually comprise of, it comprises now of 3.5% of global connected industry revenues, and that's going to more than double by 2025 in the next 10 years. So it is a very large market, and it's increasing. Now, in terms of the growth drivers, I think we can just summarize them in these 3 points. One is operational efficiency. So that means that monitoring goods in transit actually makes for much more efficient delivery and leads to less wastage. The other thing is you can also allow for corrective action to be taken if conditions don't meet optimum levels. And ORBCOM is going to be going through a few of those case studies in a few minutes. Regulation is another huge driver because this is an industry that's actually quite regulated, and there are changes in FSMA in the U.S. In terms of traceability, and that's going to have a huge impact actually globally in terms of everyone along the supply chain and what they need to do to comply. And that includes foodstuffs as well as pharmaceuticals. There's also environmental pressure in terms of consumers wanting to look at food miles and the CO2 impact of the food they buy, so there's pressures there. In terms of, for example, disaster relief, the need to maintain a supply chain in high-stress scenarios. In terms of containerization, there's growth in the use of standardized containers. So with regards to that, there's going to be a standardized approach to asset tracking, which again is a growth driver. And then in terms of improvements to battery and device technology, batteries are getting smaller and their battery life is actually getting longer. And there's also an improvement in device technologies in terms of being able to embed more intelligence on devices, for example, transmitting data only where there's exceptions. So all those are growth drivers. Now, in terms of what's going to go on in the future, obviously IoT creates new business models. The supply chain is no different. And that's obviously appealing to businesses. There's real-time connectivity, software, and analytics, which ORBCOM is going to mention, and that's making offerings more robust. We've talked about FSMA legislation, and that's going to put a spotlight on the cold chain. And increasing visibility is going to bring siloed vendors together. And again, ORBCOM is going to be talking about that in their presentation shortly. So with that, I would like to introduce Ashish Chona, the SVP of IoT Software Solutions at ORBCOM. And now I will hand over the presentation to Ashish. And Ashish I believe you have the presentation, and on to you.
I do, and thank you. Thank you, Isabel. Can you hear me? Great. So my name is Ashish Chona, and I am responsible for software solutions at ORBCOMM, and I am very excited and to be here and present this to you in terms of what we do in supply chains. And what I'd like to talk about in today's presentation is focus on some of the challenges that we're seeing in supply chain operations, and also the impact of IoT technologies and solutions in creating value and new business models in the supply chain. Okay. So I would like to start off with just giving a brief introduction about ORBCOMM. We are a public company, and we are one of the largest global players in the M2M and now the IoT market. We started off as a satellite-based connectivity provider and have since evolved into a full solutions provider providing complete turnkey solutions. Our product portfolio ranges from modems and devices to connectivity infrastructure and management software, cloud-based device management software, and full software applications. Our connectivity infrastructure encompasses both wide area technologies, which are satellite-based and cellular-based, as well as local area technologies. Using this infrastructure, our customers have ubiquitous connectivity and visibility in their assets, both within their operations and in their value chain. Our solutions have been deployed in various verticals for tracking high-value assets, transportation, logistics, heavy equipment, maritime, and government are a few verticals that we have a strong presence in. And as it relates to IoT solutions, we address our customers' IoT needs by either providing them a key component within their IoT solutions, such as connectivity, or the complete solution from device to connectivity to applications and dashboards. Okay. Now, just moving on into my presentation, and I'll start off with a definition of the supply chain or supply chain management, as many of you are familiar with. And supply chain management is really the planning, execution, and control of the efficient flow and storage of raw materials, in-process inventory, and finished goods from the point of origin to the point of consumption. And effective supply chain management, as we all know, is really critical for a company's well-being and in many cases survival. And over the recent decades, several companies in multiple industries, automotive, high-tech, retail, consumer packaged goods, have realized that supply chain management is not just the cost of getting their product into their customers' hands. It is about, they understand it is about translating their business's corporate strategy into day-to-day interactions both within their organization and across their organization. And ultimately, it is the supply chain that really determines customer satisfaction and loyalty. Globalization and outsourcing have made supply chains very, very complex. We now have multiple tiers of suppliers, manufacturers, service providers, distributors, retailers, and customers, which has made it extremely hard for all these different entities to effectively communicate and operate or execute at the same level. A linear chain of events has now become a complex network, and in this network there are multiple communication links. A supplier could be talking to not only to a customer but to other suppliers at the same time. So there's a need for visibility of what is happening all the time and the ability to optimize processes not only within your operations, but across the value chain. The handoffs are not linear, like in a relay race. They're happening all the time in the network and in parallel. And not having an effective and a smooth supply chain can have a significant impact on a company's profitability and value, as illustrated in some of these key metrics by in the studies that are done by these companies. So, this is where IoT can have a significant impact by incorporating IoT technologies and solutions into this network. We can harmoniously connect processes, people, data, and things to run these networks at maximum efficiency. Now, looking ahead to 2016 and beyond, here are some of the key demands that we're seeing within supply chain operations. We're seeing the need for improved visibility and exception management, especially at handoffs. Within a supply chain, a handoff is where our supplier's process meets a customer's process. Processes at handoffs often lack visibility and discipline. For example, in a cold chain, you could be loading perishable food products from a warehouse dock onto a reefer, and despite having good temperature control both in the warehouse and the reefer's door is open for more than the prescribed time limit, so you've got the ambient environment having an effect on the quality of the product. So it is really critical to manage these handoffs. There is also an increased demand, especially in transportation and logistics, for the visibility of the presence and condition of the cargo within the transportation asset. And there has been a lot of work that's been done in especially in the M2M world in locating and tracking these assets. But now, especially with regulatory pressures such as FSMA coming in, there's a need of tying in the inventory that's sitting in the transportation asset along with the fleet management or the fleet management software that is managing the asset. So as we look ahead, there is definitely a greater need for integrating information between all the ecosystem participants and sharing this information to drive value and benefits. Moving on to the next slide here, what I wanted to do was, within supply chain operations, we are seeing today the proliferation of IoT technologies and solutions, and I want to talk about three different aspects or examples of where technologies are being deployed. And being a software guy, I'd like to start with software. And in the software world, in addition to seeing having these operational software applications such as a warehouse management system or a transportation management system or routing or dispatching system, we're seeing the emergence of enterprise IoT software for supply chains. And this is typically cloud-based or in some cases even on-premise based. It's an open architecture. It's API-driven. APIs stand for Application Programming Interfaces, and this software enables the connectivity of various devices and sensors within your operational areas and integrating that information with your operational systems such as a WMS or a TMS. The next example or the next aspect is around managing assets, and we'll share an example over here with you. Which is, transportation and logistics assets. We've seen the proliferation of telematics and M2M technologies, which do a great job of identifying the location of an asset. These are mobile assets, along with other sensory information such as fuel level, temperature, other sensors such as door sensors, cargo sensors. So we've seen a deployment of these technologies for tracking these mobile assets as it relates to transportation and logistics. And the third aspect I want to share with you is around item level tracking, and this is, again, now we're getting into some core into the core supply chain area, and this is around inventory tracking, whether it's items or cases or pallets. And everyone is familiar with RFID technologies, but now we're also seeing the emergence of Bluetooth technologies and systems that really, or technologies that help you to track inventory in the various operational areas of your supply chain. And we're also seeing the emergence of mobile applications. Historically, it's been really around the Windows technologies, but now there's a clear adoption of smartphone-based technologies such as iOS and Android for really enabling processes within or automating processes associated with tracking items. Okay. Going on to the next slide, I just want to share with you how these technologies have manifested themselves in various operational areas, and I will share three distinct examples with you. The first one is in fixed sites such as a warehouse, using mobile technologies to really drive automation of processes. For example, in warehouse automation, it's the commissioning of assets, it's the shipping, receiving, pick or put away, as well as doing auditing or inventory counting of inventory within the warehouse. The second example I want to share with you is in fixed sites. Again, this could be a warehouse or a manufacturing line using fixed infrastructure. So in the previous example, what we showed was, mobile technology. Again, that you have a human that is involved in the loop, so you don't have full lights-out automation. You have semi-automation or assisted automation, but using fixed infrastructure, you can drive complete automation for, again, for example, a manufacturing line to track WIP as it's going through from one station to the other. And the third example is around in mobile sites. Again, the example here is in transportation logistics. I talked about telematics technologies in the previous slide, providing not only GPS or location information, but other sensory information such as fuel level, temperature, and other sensory information. But now we have, as you're well aware, we have fleet management, fleet tracking and fleet management software that uses technologies such as geofencing and time fencing in conjunction with routing and dispatching to provide some level of visibility and control of these mobile supply chain assets. So, what I described earlier in the previous slide was how, we're using these technologies and systems to drive automation and efficiencies within these functional silos. And I call these the first generation of IoT technologies. And they're really doing a great job within those environments. But the next generation of IoT solutions will be more software-centric. They will be cloud-based. They will be multi-tenant, where they can encompass all the different ecosystem participants. So these next generation of systems will help you not only monitor your sensory infrastructure or your IoT infrastructure in your value chain, but also encompass the business processes, especially at handoffs between the different ecosystem participants, and really resulting in what we call, a network, a supply chain network that is running at maximum efficiency in providing a 20 by 20 vision to all the ecosystem or value chain participants. So how do you achieve that? And what I wanted to share with you before I go into some case studies is, customers really need to kind of invest in or put together an IoT technology stack that can really help you achieve this vision. And this slide just shows you the various layers or pieces that are needed to solve the IoT solution puzzle. So starting right from the bottom, we've got devices, and being agnostic is very important, to support different technologies that provide identification, location, and condition information. A layer above that is connectivity management, not only local area connectivity, but wide area connectivity, especially if you're looking at solving a global problem. A layer above that is the device management capability. Again, the ability to manage the entire life cycle of a sensory device, which is, collecting data or doing command and control, ensuring that its firmware is up to date. And so the entire life cycle of that device is really important when you really deploy on a global basis. A layer above that is enablement of applications, and this is taking that device information and integrating that with your existing enterprise assets. It could be a warehouse management system or transportation management system, but also having the capability to enable new use cases, and those show up as purpose-built SaaS applications on the IoT Solution Stack, as illustrated in this slide. Picking the right vendor or group of vendors is really critical for a successful deployment, and it just really, that's what drives home the ROI and at the lowest cost of ownership for customers who are looking to deploy these solutions. We are at a very exciting phase of how IoT technologies and solutions are being deployed in supply chain operations. And what I'd like to share with you is 3 examples or case studies on how companies are utilizing these technologies and solutions to drive value in their supply chain. The first one is about a company that is using IoT to provide value-added services and really create new business models that provide predictable and high-margin revenue, but at the same time providing customer satisfaction and optimizing their supply chain operations. The second one is around merging, around companies that are facing regulatory pressures and how they can merge different silos of data to create a more powerful and agile supply chain, and that's around FISMA, and I'll get into that as well. And the third one is around operational convergence. These are where companies are looking at, integrating together their maintenance capabilities together with their supply chain to optimize their operations. So the first case study is about a manufacturer. This is a pretty large manufacturer and they're illustrated as a container provider over here in this slide. It's a manufacturer of plastics. They make bins, pallets, containers, etc. And early on, they saw the commoditization pressure on their product line. And being a very visionary company, they started talking to a lot of their customers, and they realized that IoT was a path that they're going to go down into. And so they invested in IoT technologies and solutions. They decided to instrument all of their product lines, so using RFID technology, GPS technology, and condition sensors on their product line. But in addition to that, what they did is they instrumented their entire value chain. So this is not only their internal operations, but their customers' operations and the operations of their service providers. They also invested in sophisticated cloud-based software, which could monitor the entire their IoT infrastructure, not only within their operations but in their value chain, but also could encompass the business processes that would be executed within this value chain, especially at the handoffs. And so what they've been able to achieve is using these technologies, using a solution that's been deployed, and this is an example of a PubKeg IoT application. They've got accurate, indisputable visibility of inventory within this entire value chain. They are also providing that information to their customers, to their partners. They've also been able to now provide this as a value-added service and move from a CapEx model to an OpEx business model, which is more predictable and which has higher margin. And so and this has been done without, without compromising any of the value that they're sharing all this value with all their ecosystem participants. And so it's all, in addition to this new business model, what it has done is it's created customer stickiness for them and extreme loyalty. The next example I'd like to share with you is around what we call around merging data silos, and this is associated with in the food industry where we're seeing regulations such as FSMA, which are requiring all the different value chain or supply chain participants to ensure that perishable food products that go through their operations are within a certain temperature band, but also to provide electronic and auditable proof that these products have been associated with the temperature that these products have been subjected to. So as you can see, this is a very complex problem just by trying to put all this information together. You've got different participants. You've got a factory or a warehouse that's using a facilities management system, which is responsible for monitoring and controlling the temperature within that facility. You've got, in the case of a mobile a reefer, you've got an M2M system which is responsible for ensuring that the reefer is controlling the temperature of the products that are within that it's transporting. So this is a problem about integrating all this information from these various participants and providing an integrated view of the temperature profile of a product as it moves through the supply chain. But that's not the only part of this. The second element of this is around food traceability, and what we've seen is the standards emerge from organizations such as GS1 around how to track, perishable products to see exactly the movement of products. This is perishable food in this case, from the farm to the fork. So using a comprehensive IoT solution we can integrate or merge these different silos of information to really provide an integrated view of this supply chain, meet regulatory compliance, and to really benefit the consumers by doing very effective and recalls in the case of a contamination event. So that's the second case study or example I wanted to share with you, and the third one is around the convergence of operational of the operations of a business, and this is an example in the heavy equipment industry where you have an OEM, which is a manufacturer of heavy equipment. You've got a dealer which rents out the heavy equipment, but is also responsible for the service and maintenance of the heavy equipment. And then you've got the end users, such as examples are mines or construction companies who are using the heavy equipment for their projects. And what has happened so far in this space, in this vertical, is fleet management systems, which not only provide the location of the heavy equipment, but also get other information such as engine hours or mileage information, which is really around driving, maintenance. And maintenance is very critical, because if you have a heavy equipment that goes down in a mining operation or in a construction project, it could be a significant amount of dollars. And what they found out is that, what's happening in this vertical is, each of the heavy equipment has some critical components. In many cases, these components get interchanged. And so these components are losing their usage history. The integrity of that information is lost when you're starting to switch these components from one heavy equipment to the other. So what's happening in this space is companies are starting to tag and instrument their components, especially the high-value components that are being used in the heavy equipment. So you can now, instead of doing, going into usage or mileage-based maintenance, you're getting into component-level maintenance, so doing more granular and accurate maintenance to really drive towards, prevention of equipment downtime. But now by tagging that, by using RFID technology or in many cases what we're seeing is Bluetooth technology, you can now also track the inventory of these components right from the OEM to the dealer, and so you have the opportunity, we're seeing the opportunity of integrating these operational systems into one comprehensive system that provides for supply chain optimization. So those are the three case studies, and in summary, what I'd like to say is, as I illustrated or talked about, supply chains have become very complex. They become these networks, and by incorporating IoT technologies and solutions, we are addressing the challenges and creating opportunities for operational efficiencies and productivity improvements. But also, in addition to that, we are creating opportunities for value-added services that various entities, service providers within the supply chains can take advantage of. And the last slide over here before I'd be happy to take any questions is, again, to address these complexities, you need a comprehensive solution. And I'd like to leave you with these thoughts if you're considering or looking to put together an IoT solution. You need a solution that can incorporate different technologies, different devices, that is scalable across users, across business units, across enterprises, so what we call multi-tenancy, that is open and API-driven, that can be integrated with your existing enterprise assets, such as your ERP or WMS systems, and that is future-proof, that where you can enable new use cases. One of our customers said something very interesting. He said, "I don't know what I don't know, and this is a specific use case I want to deploy in my supply chain." But once these customers start seeing how all this data, this flood of data through IoT, they start reimagining how they can incorporate IoT and enable new use cases. And so you need a platform where you can rapidly enable new use cases. So with that, that brings me to the conclusion of my slide, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much for that, Ashish. Very informative here, and we're actually starting to get questions in. Actually, we've been having questions coming in while actually you were on and I was on, which is always good. So let's just start with the first one, which is in my part of the presentation on the figures for the global supply chain revenue and them increasing sevenfold, asking me to define better what exactly is increasing sevenfold in terms of are companies doing more business or the transportation industry that would move supply chains, will that increase sevenfold? So basically what I was talking about, just going back and recapping that definition of supply chain, because essentially I was talking about the increase in revenues in the supply chain, and we define that as the tracking and monitoring of trailers and containers by sea, rail, and that's elements of supply chain management such as job allocation, routing, and freight monitoring, and monitoring midstream distribution pipelines, and it doesn't include road fleet management. So I think getting back to the question as well, is it companies doing more business or new business, and it's actually tracking both. The next question is, will we be getting a PDF of the presentation? Yes, within 24 hours, you will be sent a link for that. There's also another question saying, and I guess that's a question for Ashish, is with regards to the use cases, are the technologies used to track passive active GPS or BLE, or none of the above? Ashish?
Yeah, Isabel, I got that question. Yeah, so again, we're using a wide variety of technologies, again, within the realm of RFID, especially as it relates to item-level tracking. We're seeing a lot around passive technologies, passive RFID in the UHF spectrum. But again, when you have an IoT technology stack, you want to be agnostic. So we support active technologies as well. We support BLE. We support indoor RTLS or real-time location systems, whether it's Wi-Fi based or ultra-wideband based, which uses TDOA technology to get accurate locationing of assets within a facility. But then in outdoors, we use we do a lot of work with telematics, and we have devices that are obviously that use provide GPS-based information and tie in other sensory information in mobile transportation assets, and then use a wide variety of satellite or cellular or local area connectivity on the back end to bring that information into the enterprise systems.
Okay. Then we have another question. It seems like the real benefit in terms of breaking down silos in the supply chain is greater and greater B2B communications and integration, and IoT provides a good reason or excuse for increased B2B integration. Would you agree?
I do, absolutely. So, but it also depends on your B2B infrastructure, right? So, sometimes a lot of the B2B infrastructure, if it can incorporate item-level information, then you can use a B2B infrastructure, whether it's EDI or XML-based or some standards-based, to exchange that information between the ecosystem participants. But at the same time, you need some redundancy in the system. So if you have an enterprise IoT system which can also support those constructs, which is multi-tenant in nature, then your value chain participants can get access to that information as well.
Okay. There's another question. IoT growth will definitely drive even more data traffic. How will satellite and terrestrial network adapt to this? Will 5G cover it all? Broadband space constellation? This is quite sort of predictive, so a bit more of a challenging question to predict what's going on in the future. But do you have any thoughts on that, Ashish?
Yeah, so, obviously, in all these, there is increased bandwidth being created in all these different types of connectivity infrastructure, whether it's satellite, cellular, or local area. So, there is work going on, but as it relates to what we're doing in the IoT M2M space, again, this is nothing like video or other types of technologies that really need super high bandwidth, and we operate more on especially on the satellite side. We operate these are narrowband satellites and really dedicated to IoT and M2M. So we have enough capacity in our satellite infrastructure, and as it relates to cellular and other technologies that we partner with other companies, we are working on supporting the next generation of technologies that are coming in.
Great. And can you just talk a bit more, there's a question in here, about how cargo conditions in containers are monitored?
Okay, so cargo conditions in containers. So like a reefer, or?
Yeah, I would imagine that. I think, you know, obviously I have my views on that in terms of my understanding in it. There's obviously different ways of doing that, and certainly it does depend on the length of the journey as well. But I'm assuming here that they are asking about the different types of devices that do the monitoring, I suppose the real-time capabilities of them. So if you could just go through, at least from your perspective, what you're doing in that.
Sure, absolutely. So, you know, we are instrumenting a lot of, you know, obviously ORBCOMM has a strong presence in the transportation and logistics vertical, and what we do over there is, you know, we're instrumenting a lot of the transportation assets, and a lot of the technologies. I mean, a lot of sensors. You know, we have our own devices, and we're integrating the different sensors. You know, historically using a lot of, you know, through wired capability, but with some new standards, new technologies emerging, such as, you know, BLE, Bluetooth, we're looking very actively at using those technologies to incorporate other sensors within the transportation assets. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, I certainly think it did. Okay, so I know from my perspective, you know, people are talking about a lot about, for example, proof of concepts in IoT and quick turnaround and quick implementation, rather than, you know, the fear of everything being complex and taking a lot of time to implement. So how quickly then do you think people can get to market with a typical IoT solution?
Oh, that's a loaded question, Isabel. It depends on obviously the use case, but you know what I would say is, if you're starting out with IoT, you obviously want to think big. You start small, but you have the ability to scale fast, right? And so you want to work with a vendor that can enable you to achieve that. And so if you know, there's several companies who are already well beyond their proof of concepts or pilots, and they're in full production. But you know, if you're looking to do a POC, you know, you want to, you know, we've seen any examples of deploying proof of concepts anywhere from maybe take a few weeks to maybe a month or two, and pilots can take anywhere from, you know, 2 to 3 months or even a little longer. And then once the customers have done that, then they're off to the races. So I would say, you know, it really depends on the use case, and so it could be, it's a wide spectrum in terms of the time it'll take to get there.
Great. I think based on polling results, which we'll do shortly, there's a lot of interest in the whole concept of monetization and implementation. So what do you think a customer should consider then, Ashish, when considering a new IoT-based business model?
If they're looking, what we've seen, Isabel, is, you know, so I mean, early on, you know, this was a few years ago, but we saw a lot of visionary customers who realized, you know, that and I give you one example, we've got several others, customers who are manufacturing products. You know, a lot of them are service providers or product manufacturers, and they're seeing increased pressures around commoditization of their products. So, you know, a lot of these customers have decided, you know, that they're going to instrument. It's again about, you know, using the right technology or sensory technology within their products, but also the ability to instrument not only their operations but their value chain. And this could use mobile infrastructure or fixed infrastructure. Obviously, mobile sensory infrastructure is easier, so that could be a stepping stone to full fixed infrastructure. But again, I think it is becoming very important and in some cases very critical, and we've seen that, for customers to start adopting IoT to really, address some of the commoditization pressures they're seeing, but more importantly, provide value-added services to their customers. Again, that creates more stickiness and loyalty. We're seeing this we've got a customer that, manufactures hoses, where they're providing a solution to manage the entire life cycle of these industrial hoses to drive towards predictive maintenance, and their customers are very happy with it. We've got customers who are the container customer I talked about I just showed you we just showed you the PubKeg IoT application, but this company has decided to I've heard some of this word IoTize, or use IoT technologies and solutions in all the other verticals that they serve, which includes consumer packaged goods, retail, waste management, etc.
Great. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions that have not been addressed. Okay, I think I'll ask another one then. Now, the last mile has been traditionally logistically difficult, especially for the cold chain. Can you talk a bit more about how IoT helps to address that?
Oh, the last mile?
Yes. Yes.
I agree. The last mile has been, if you look over the years, and that's kind of one of the challenges that have faced, that RFID technology has faced, because it's in many cases it is a last mile problem. But standards have emerged, price points of the technologies have come down, and so we're seeing a next wave of activity around deploying these technologies, especially in the last mile. And then again, on top of that, you're seeing regulatory requirements such as FSMA, which are demanding that. And kind of I look at I talked about the handoffs in a supply chain, and managing that handoff again becomes, if you look at it, it's a last mile problem. And in some cases where you have inventory or products that are perishable, that can have an impact on someone's health, can have an impact on life, or you can have some serious risk issues, right? In terms of you can have critical assets that you don't want to leave behind or not load onto your truck or unload. You really need to address that. So there you see a lot of the regulatory pressures coming in play as well to address these last mile problems. But again, their standards have come in, cost points have come down, so it's become much easier to deploy, especially in the last mile.
Great. Okay, so if there's no more questions, we will go to the poll results. And the poll results in terms of the first question, what is your role? 36% said they were an IoT vendor in the supply chain vertical. 4% said that they purchased IoT on the demand side. 22% are actually telecom providers, so that's fully 1/4 of the participants here. And 33% said others. So if we add up the vendors and the telecoms providers, which we are assuming are vendors or want to become vendors, that's 58, a full 58% of people on this call are in the vendor position. Now, will you become involved in supply chain activities that include IoT in the next 12 months? Yes, as a buyer was 7%, not yet as a buyer was 13%, yes, as a vendor was 29%, and I'm already involved in these activities was almost half at 47%. So the question in my mind as an analyst is obviously saying, okay, since there's a big chunk of them already involved, does that mean people are looking to move up the chain and obviously realize the value of the supply chain and IoT in the supply chain, and the vendors definitely moving into IoT and using it in the supply chain and the value of that, which is why they're on the call and why Ashish's information and insights today were so very useful and important. So I thank you, Ashish, for all your contributions today and giving us a lot of that insight into what you and the rest of your team have found in this space. So with that, to end the call, thanks for joining us. Join us for the next IMC webinar. I don't know if David would like to speak about that.
Yes, just on behalf of the IMC, I'd like to thank Isabel and Ashish and thank all of our audience for joining us today. A recording of today's webinar and a PDF download of the slides will be available in the next 48 hours on our website, IoTM2Mcouncil.org. You will receive a post-event email which will include information on the recording and the slides. And of course, please join us for our next event as well. Thank everyone.